I want one of my own, preferably two. Put their heads in the ground and pretend nothing's happening, because it is a standalone, hence why it's in this video, Esmay. Hello lovely bookworms, I'm Esmay from Paradise with Pages on Instagram and also on Twitter, and welcome to a new video. Today, as you can already see from the title, we are doing a Friday favorites. As I think I mentioned in December, I'm hoping to do this on a monthly basis. I did do one in February, so we're just in time for March. I will link the playlist with Friday favorites down below if you want to check out the other ones. And today we are talking about standalones. I actually wanted to talk about comfort books, but I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go to Twitter and ask you guys what you want to see. I put down 4 polls. I put down, I think, comfort books, favorite male and female characters, and then standalones. I'll give you the results of the poll here, and as you can see, standalones won by a little bit, which means that I will be doing comfort books soon. April's nearly here, so I thought, you know, I can always do that for Friday favorites in April. If you do want that, also let me know. If you have any other ideas for Friday favorites, again, just let me know, I'll talk about them. That said, we are talking about standalones today, and I think I've talked enough, so let's just begin. And the first standalone I want to talk about is The Forbidden Wish. This is basically an Aladdin? That is Dutch, Esmay. An Aladdin retelling, and in this one the genie is a woman called Zara, and Zara basically follows Aladdin around and helps him where she can, and that's basically what the story is about. I absolutely love it. I do have to say that I reread it recently. I actually recommended it to Shanice as a comfort book, and I thought, you know what, this is a great standalone, so I'm going to put it on the list. I absolutely love the characters. I think it captures that idea of Aladdin very well. I really like the romance in this book, and something I also really love is that you can sort of go through it in a very quick pace and just feel all those lovely feels, because I think both the first and the second time that I've read it, it didn't take me more than 5 hours, and I think this has about 300 to 400 pages. Yeah, about 330. So it's not the biggest of books, but it is very well done. The world is well established, and in general, I think it's just a very well done standalone. Okay, let's continue on with a book I don't own yet. I am planning on buying all of them, but, you know, money. You can't just buy all the books in the world. You need to calm it down. So the first one that I have on my list that I don't own yet is The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. This book grabbed at my heartstrings in such a well done way. That's not proper English, but you know what I mean. This story basically follows a girl called Alessandra, and she has 3 things she wants to do. She wants to go to court, woo the king, marry the king, and then kill him. I know that that is 4, but it is set as 3. Anyway, that's where the story starts off, and in general, I just love Alessandra so much. I have read Tricia Levenseller's other duology, which is Daughter of the Pirate King. I quickly grabbed it for reference, and I definitely think that the characters in here, so Alosa, Raiden, are just as sassy as the characters in The Shadows Between Us. But the romance in The Shadows Between Us is just literally something that I can vouch for. I absolutely loved the story. The only thing I found sad was that it wasn't longer, because it is a standalone, hence why it's in this video, Esmay. But it's just so well done. I absolutely love the Shadow King. He's so cool. I want one of my own, preferably 2. But yeah, he's amazing, and I love the characters. I also love the plot twists. There's one moment in the book that just, it made me laugh so much, and I think that's something we all need right now. I think we should move on with a book that I haven't talked about a lot, but did really enjoy, and that is The Wolf Wilder by Catherine Rundell. I think this one is actually a middle grade, and this is basically sort of Russia inspired. I think it follows a girl called Feodora, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and she lives in the woods of Russia with her mother tending to wolves, so she's a wolf wilder, hence the title. Then her mother gets kidnapped, I think by the Bolsheviks, if I remember correctly, and Feodora goes on this quest to get her mother back. And that's what the book is about. I loved her going through all the wilderness of Russia and seeing the bigger capitals and all that stuff. It was just amazing to read. Also, something that I really, really enjoyed is that this book has illustrations. So, for example, this is chapter 9, this beginning of chapter 9. I know that there's also a lot of, like, huge illustrations, so every chapter has a new illustration, but, for example, within the chapters, there's also illustrations, and I know that there's also, like, full-paged illustrations in here. Here, there's one of them. And I think it's absolutely stunning. It really added to reading the story, and if you want a quick, fun book, definitely pick this up. I think I am going to reread it because I'm very tempted to now. It is amazing and it's stunning. It really is. And the scenery in this book is one of the best that I've ever read. Okay, now that we are already on the topic of Russia, another standalone that I want to talk about is Romanov by Nadine Brandis. This basically follows Anastasia before her family is murdered, and it was so interesting to see all the family connections, especially between her and her brother, her sister, and her father. These dynamics were very, very interesting to read. I do have to say that this definitely isn't a historical fiction. It definitely has elements that are not true, but the author actually has an entire paragraph and a couple of pages at the end of the book telling you which things are true and which things have been over-exaggerated a little bit, which I really enjoyed. I also loved seeing the romance in this book. It was something that really kept me going, and I didn't expect to love it that much. I actually read this book last year because I had a challenge from Ember to read a book about Russia, and then I started Googling, came across this one, and thought, you know what, I'll just settle on this one because I had already read The Wolf Wilder and wanted to read a new book, and it was definitely worth it. I loved every minute of it, read it very quickly, and can definitely recommend it to you guys. If you've read any of the books on my list, I think it is this one. I know that it is a very hyped book, but in my opinion, it deserves all the hype it gets, and that's Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Before I go into this book, I do have to add that I didn't go into this one with a lot of expectations, because I was not the biggest fan of An Enchantment of Ravens by the same author, but this one really blew me away. This basically follows a girl named Elizabeth who is training to become some sort of librarian and protector of these so-called tomes. These tomes have a level from 1 to 10, I believe, and the higher the level, the more dangerous they are, and they can even turn into monsters that literally kill you, which I thought was super interesting considering, in my opinion, books are such a powerful way to do anything. It has so much power and people rarely recognize it, and this book definitely gives credit where credit is due. That said, the romance in this book was just as great. I'm a sucker for romance in fantasy books. And I also really loved the way the plot developed, because it didn't go in the direction that I thought it would, which is something that I really, really appreciate. That's the word. It's something I really appreciate in books. And in general, the characters are just really well written. I think there is a character called Silas. I'm not sure if it mentions it here. No. Basically, one of the main characters is called Nathaniel, and he is one of these librarians, and he has a servant called Silas, and I love Silas. He's amazing. I also love Nathaniel. He's my baby. I love all of these characters in this book, and in general, I just thought it was really solid. I just wished there was a little bit more of it, if you know what I mean. Next up is the last book that I don't own yet, and that is a middle grade, and that is Ember and the Ice Dragons by Heather Fawcett. I love this book so much. I actually read this for the Polarthon back in February. Yes, that's the month. And it blew me away. I had expected to enjoy it because I really love Heather Fawcett's Even the Darkest Stars duology, but this book was really, really nice. I loved the dragon aspect of it. I loved every single character in there. The banter in there was very well done. I think it was definitely a full-fetched middle grade, but on the best sense of the word. It was easy to read, not too complicated, yes, predictable, but in a good way. And I just loved that most of the book was situated on the North Pole, because I love cold and wintry things. Hence why I read it for Polarthon. And in general, I think you'll enjoy it as well. It's just a fun, cute little book to read. Sadly, once again, it's a standalone. I hope there will be more in this series, in this world, I have to say. But we'll see. I just realized that I'm forgetting something, so I'm going to grab it. It's literally right behind me, behind this plant here. And that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This is also a standalone, which could have been 3 books at the size of it, but it wasn't, and it was really well written. I loved this. I can't really explain it too much because there are so many different point of views and characters, but the main premise of this book, which is also what is on the cover, is that a dragon called the Nameless One will return and bring chaos to the world. Some people think that he will actually bring chaos, and other people actually want him to return, and then there's people in the middle who just put their heads in the ground and pretend nothing is happening. That's basically the main premise of the book, and then everything around it is like political intrigue, getting all the characters to know each other, adventures, and everything in between that. I know that's a very bad synopsis, but Goodreads will help you out here. I do have to add that the ending wasn't the best I've ever read, but the world building in this book is by far the best I've ever read, especially in a standalone, but I think in general in all the books I've read. I loved the writing style. It is a very dense book, definitely an adult. It's not light or feathery, it is very political, but in a very good way, and I enjoyed it so much. That said, I do have 2 more books on this list, so let's continue on with one that shouldn't be a surprise. And that is Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. I love Elizabeth Lim's writing. Everything I've read so far from hers was a definite hit. Nina's waking up. Hello there. And basically what this is about, it's a continuation or twisted tales of Mulan. So if you've seen Mulan, if you've seen the movie, basically when they start fighting the Huns in the mountains, Shang dies, and that's where this story takes off. Mulan then decides to go into the underworld and get him back, and that's the amount of this story. I absolutely loved everything about this book. It was action-packed, romance-packed. The only thing I'm sad about is that it doesn't have too much Mushu in it, because Mushu is my favorite character of all times, but this book is forgiven because it is so good. And in general, I just loved seeing a different perspective on Mulan, if that makes sense. So yeah, I loved it. I need more of this. Read it. That does leave one more book, and this is also a middle grade, and this is actually, if I am not mistaken, the debut novel of Victoria Schwab, and that's The Near Witch. This actually came out again last year, and I went to a signing with Femke and actually got this one personalized and signed. It says, "For Esmay," and then there's an autograph there, which I'm very happy about, but I also really enjoyed the story. It's not too big. It is filled with mystery and intrigue and all the good things you like. This is about a girl, what was her name again? Lexi, I think? Yes. This is about a girl named Lexi, and then children start disappearing in her little town that she is living in, called Near, I believe. I think so. It doesn't really state it, but I think it is called Near. People start disappearing, specifically children, and they have to try and figure out what is happening. There is a new person in the town, or at least they think, who might be a little bit connected to this, and this story was just so interesting to read, a little fun story, and I think you will really enjoy it if you're into, like, witchy books. Those were actually all the standalones that I wanted to talk about. That said, if you have a standalone that is not on this list that you absolutely loved, let me know. If I've read it, I'll tell you what I thought. If I haven't, I'll probably pick it up. I always love standalones. It's just a fun book in between other books. And yeah, I loved talking about it. I also promise that I will be making a video about comfort books soon. And stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and press that little bell icon so that you get post notifications every single time that we post. And I will see you guys the next time. Bye!